Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 672. 672, January the 24th, 2019, Thursday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, let's get to it. Okay, so now we're getting a report that Michael Cohen is not going to testify in front of Congress. Here, I think that was scheduled for, a week from now? Or February? Sometime soon. But it appears now that he's going to cancel. And he says the reason for that is that Trump and Giuliani have been threatening his family. What he's talking about there is that Trump has tweeted and Giuliani has commented on the fact that they're talking about Michael Cohen's father-in-law, who's a wealthy, alleged, corrupt individual who has some issues with the law, breaking the law as a matter of fact, and apparently has a history of that. He's had troubles before. And so that's what Trump and Giuliani are talking about, is his corrupt father-in-law. And that's what Cohen is saying when he says that Trump and Giuliani are threatening his family. Now, I don't think it has anything to do with that. I assume that it apparently is not that big of a secret that Cohen's father-in-law has been involved in some shady dealings and has been looked at by the Justice Department in New York before for various activities he's been involved in. So it's not like it's a secret or anything like that. And and it's not like Trump and Giuliani have running some game behind the scenes to get his father-in-law indicted or anything like that. They're just raising a point that his father-in-law is corrupt, and a lot of people know about it. So that's not really the reason. The reason that Cohen doesn't want to testify in front of Congress is because he knows he's going to get grilled and slammed. One of the reasons he's going to jail is for lying to Congress. Doesn't make a very good witness. And he knows that on the Republican side, he's going to get skewered by these Republicans. And on the Democrat side, they're going to want him to talk about collusion and obstruction and all these things. And he cannot comment on these things. Because why? They're all part of the ongoing investigation from Uncle Bob, the executioner. So whenever they ask him all these questions that would help their case, then he would not be able to answer these questions because of the Mueller investigation. He will have an attorney sitting right next to him, probably one of Uncle Bob's attorneys, at least one, if not two, sitting there telling him, oh, you can't talk about that. So a lot of the things that they would want to get him to comment on, he can't comment on, which would only leave him to sit there where he's being skewered by Republicans for being a liar and a corrupt individual himself. So it's probably dawned on him, just as I said a week or two ago, that, I mean, he's going, I wouldn't do it if I were him. He's setting himself up for a very bad day. There's no way he can come out of this thing looking good. The best thing he could do is keep his mouth shut and do his 3 years, hopefully get out on good behavior in a year and a half, and get on back to making an honest living for a change, like the rest of us. So it doesn't surprise me that, again, in fact, I think I even said a couple of days ago on a video, do you think Cohen will actually go through with it? I wouldn't advise him to do it if I were his lawyer. And if he had any sense in his head, he wouldn't do it. So maybe he's finally, thought it through and decided, this may not go very well. Maybe I should pull out. So he can use whatever reason he wants, but the fact of the matter is, he would have been skewered had he gone in front of Congress, and he wouldn't have been any help at all to the Democratic cause. So there's really nothing to be gained from it. And so, yeah, it's a wise move for him to keep his mouth shut, go serve his time, and be done with it. But there is another investigation that's going to begin. They're hoping to begin, and that is this investigation that Jerry Nadler is beginning. He sent Whitaker, acting AG Matt Whitaker, a letter, and he basically wants to know, and he wants documents about every single conversation Trump has ever had with Whitaker. Nadler wants Whitaker to disclose to him and the committee publicly every conversation he's ever had with Donald Trump. Good luck with that. Now, they put all sorts of new rules in place, and to try to force that to happen, we have not seen Whitaker's response to the letter yet, but I'm sure within a couple of days we'll be getting a response to that letter. My guess is that Whitaker is not going to cooperate. I think that they'll do whatever they have to do. But I don't think they're going to cooperate with Nadler, and I don't think Whitaker is going to say a whole lot. I think they're going to play the game, which Whitaker will get his lawyer, and their lawyers will fight about it for a couple of months, and or years if that's what it takes. But what's important about this is that this was step one for Nadler, because remember, the impeachment of Donald Trump is going to begin on February the 6th. That's when these hearings calling all these people around Trump, including Trump Jr. and various other people, into Congress, this is when all this is going to begin. It's the coup that we talked about weeks and weeks ago after Republicans lost the House in the midterms. And I said, this is what's going to happen. So now this is all beginning. So the first step of this for Nadler is to have Whitaker come in and disclose to him every conversation that he's ever had with Trump and produce the documents. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, it is the first step of the impeachment of Trump. This is where it begins. And there'll be more and more and more and more. And it's all going to end up tangled up in the courts. It's going to, in legal, all sorts of legal issues will come about. And it's just going to be a very litigious, grinding, grueling next 2 years in the Congress, because all these individuals are not just going to come into Congress and just start doing whatever the Democrats want in these committee hearings. They're going to lawyer up and fight like hell. And of course, we'll have to see how William Barr approaches all this, because remember, once he becomes Attorney General, he decides what documents get released or do not get released. He decides a lot of these issues, and he's also going to be in a position that if Barr looks at this and thinks he's looking at a real witch hunt by the Democrats in Congress, he has a few tools in his toolbox that he can break out to calm him down a little bit. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Barr responds to all of this. Again, I don't put much confidence in Barr. I don't think that Barr is going to get to the bottom of anything because he wants to or feels obligated to. I believe it's just simply that the evidence will be so overwhelming, he will have no choice in looking as far as the Spygate stuff. As far as how he handles what he will be witnessing in the months to come from the Democrats in Congress with all their hearings and all these sorts of things, it'll be interesting to see how William Barr, what he does about that, whether he just sits back like a spectator and watches it all, or whether he starts to, throw his weight around a little bit to try to calm the situation down or bring the situation into some picture of reality, because he's probably not going to enjoy that. Just from what we've heard from William Barr, this is the type of thing. He seems to be someone who doesn't like to see the politics get involved in a lot of things. And if they start bringing politics, which that's what this is all about for the Democrats, it's about impeachment. Now, I find it hard to believe that Barr is paying attention to what's going on, and he doesn't know this. He obviously knows all of this that's going on. So what will be interesting is to see how Barr reacts to all of this. So getting back now to the State of the Union, it's still undecided exactly what's going to happen, because both Trump and Madam Botox are digging in. Of course, we know that Trump Pelosi sent a letter and said you can't do the State of the Union because of security and all this sort of stuff. Trump then responded and said, well, I've talked to people in security. They said there's no problem with security, so we can go ahead and do the State of the Union. Pelosi shot back another letter and said, no, we're not welcoming you there. Now, as far as it's concerned, in the House, typically the Speaker of the House does control the House. She can order that they turn off the lights, turn off the microphones, and do not seat any guests. So then we had the second option that Trump would go to the Senate. But for him to give the speech in the Senate, there would have to be 60 votes. 60 votes to approve of that. I don't know if they have the 60 votes to get that done or not. And whether or not Trump even wants to do that. I mean, at this point in the standoff, even though it's 5 days away, something like that, Trump's holding his ground. He's basically saying at this point, for the most part, that he plans on being there in the House chamber on Capitol Hill to deliver the State of the Union. That's his position right now. But he's also, Kellyanne Conway also said that he's also making, other plans in case that blows up, which it likely will. So it appears to me that what Trump wants to do is that Trump wants to play again chicken with Nancy Pelosi, just like he's doing in the government shutdown. He wants to play chicken and see if Nancy Pelosi will actually continue on this position where she's not going to allow him to come in and give his speech, State of the Union, in the House. And maybe he feels like if he pushes this right up to the very last day, maybe the day before the State of the Union, and she still is refusing to budge, and she's not going to allow him to come in and give the State of the Union, maybe Trump thinks that that's, will reflect negatively on her. In which case he'll have an alternative plan in place. He'll take it up to the 11th hour, and then when she doesn't back down, if she does back down, he'll give the State of the Union there. If she doesn't back down, he'll do it somewhere else, and then he and his people and other people on his side, I guess, will go out and hammer Pelosi for a couple weeks about what a dastardly deed this was, and this type of thing. So it looks like to me just another game of high-level chicken between President Trump and Madam Botox. And who's winning and losing these fights, I'm not really sure. I think in the long term they play in Trump's hand. As far as in the short term, I don't know. It's really hard to say. You can't trust the polls on these sorts of things because you don't really know the real questions that they ask in the poll. And so it's just really hard to say exactly what's going on. But both sides must be getting information that lead them to believe that they're winning the fight because they're both staying in the fight. We still have the possibility that there's these Democrats who could turn. So there's a lot of things up in the air right now. We just don't know very much. It's just all speculation at this point. And I just don't know, exactly how this is all going to play out. But, I mean, Pelosi is definitely playing her hand. I mean, she is absolutely playing it, 5-card stud, man. I mean, she's willing to, put it all on the line. I guess, she's willing to, it's a win or lose bet for her. You're going to either win it all or win big or lose big. And this can only go one of those two ways. It's not going to be a happy medium here. Pelosi's either going to win big on this deal or lose big. So we're just going to have to see how this all plays out. But I would just think in general that just my general thoughts are not considering the partisans, people on the left or right, but just the people in the center, in the middle of the road sort of thing, may see this as kind of a childish move on Nancy Pelosi's part by blocking Trump from giving the State of the Union. The reason she gave obviously isn't true, so it's just politics, and it'll be interesting to see, because they'll probably do a poll on this at some point, some polls. I don't trust polls a lot, but we'll see how this thing plays out, and we'll see who's the big winner and who the big loser is after the State of the Union. Okay. Sheila Jackson Lee, hardcore anti-Trumper, is also the chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus, and she's also chairman of this other black organization. It appears that Sheila Jackson Lee is being forced to resign. She's being forced to resign as chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus and this other group she's a head of. And it's because that she was retaliating against a former staffer who claimed that she was raped by this foundation supervisor. And Sheila Jackson Lee is head of this black congressional foundation. So I guess a staffer attempted to inform Sheila Jackson Lee that she was raped by a staffer, and Sheila Jackson Lee blew her off. So the staffer was working for Sheila Jackson Lee at the time of the alleged rape. The person that's being accused of the rape is Damian Jones. Damian Jones. Damian Jones was most recently the regional political director for Beto O'Rourke's failed Senate campaign. So there must be some legitimacy to this claim, because Sheila Jackson Lee has stepped down, and she was asked to step down by other members of the Black Congressional Caucus and this other group that she's the head of, the Black Congressional Foundation. So she was head of both of those. She stepped down from, I assume, both positions because she apparently retaliated against this former staffer by firing her. I believe she was fired after she came to Sheila Jackson Lee's office and said, hey, I was raped by this individual. And Sheila Jackson Lee apparently approved of her being fired. So now Sheila Jackson Lee is stepping down, and we'll find out if there's anything else more to come from this. But I do believe that police report has been made, and I imagine we don't know what's happened to this Damian Jones. We assume, though, if she's filed a police report, that we can assume that Mr. Jones has been questioned at least about this, and we can assume that maybe there'll be some criminal charges or something. So we now have John Kerry overseas, outside the country. Again, he's over in Davos. We know what happens over in Davos. So Kerry is over in Davos, and he's in a interview, and he says that Trump should resign. Generally, you're not supposed to go overseas and criticize the president, but that's okay for John F. and Kerry, who, by the way, served in Vietnam. It's okay for John Kerry because, of course, he's an elite snob, and he's allowed to do that. And I guess he feels he's got sufficient cover. Personally, I would have thrown his ass in jail when he came back from Iran about 3 or 4 months ago, when he was over there negotiating foreign policy as a private citizen, in direct contradiction to the Trump administration. I would have thrown his ass in jail for a couple of days if it were me. He's very lucky. Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse is calling for an investigation into the Republicans who exposed the FISA abuse scandal by the corrupt FBI and DOJ. And he specifically named Nunes, Meadows, and Jordan. So let me get this straight. They expose the fraud that took place in getting the FISA warrant on Carter Page. And for that, Sheldon Whitehouse is calling for an investigation into them for exposing the fraudulent FISA warrant. That's exactly how it's going to go. Just like if Barr investigates Spygate or puts in a special counsel, guarantee you that the Democrats will call for an investigation into whether Trump and Barr were colluding all along to put in this special counsel to go after Trump's political enemies and Democrats. That's how they'll play it. And the left-wing news media will jump right on board and provide the narrative. Watch and see. Well, we have this attorney, Robert Barnes, who's representing these kids at Covcath in northern Kentucky. And he says that he has sent out the letters to various media and celebrities, letting them know that they have 48 hours to retract and apologize to the Covington Cath kids or to face a lawsuit. So it's looking like he is going to file a class action lawsuit. Some of these people have come out and apologized and retracted their statements, but most of them have not, including Maggie Haberman, who wrote the sort of flagship article for the New York Times that first got the ball rolling on all of this. So we'll see if these people, apparently they've already been served their letters. We'll see if in the next 48 hours, how many of them come out and apologize, retract their statements. Because Mr. Barnes says if they do not in the next 48 hours, that next week they will be receiving their court documents telling them they are being sued as part of a class action lawsuit. Well, there appears that there has been a coup d'etat in Venezuela. Okay, so I knew this was coming. I'm surprised it took this long, really, to be honest with you. I thought they would have this done like 2 or 3 years ago. They must have ran into some problems, things that the CIA ain't what they used to be, right? They've been a little busy trying to frame Trump. But it appears at this point, this individual, Juan Guaido, has declared himself the interim president at a rally in Caracas. He says that he will only stay in power till a transitional government is in place. Trump and Pompeo have both come out and recognized Guaido as the president, as well as about 7 or 8 other countries in South America, including Brazil and various other countries. So apparently Maduro is pretty much done, but he hasn't been arrested or anything. In fact, he gave a speech about the same time saying that it was a U.S.-led coup. Well, pretty much. But I don't know that it was a U.S.-led coup, but it was certainly the CIA is involved. I mean, I'm sure they've been sitting back waiting for the opportunity to make their move. But if you look at the video footage that I was looking at, there's protest all over Venezuela, huge protest all over the place. And I find it difficult to believe that the CIA could get that organized, that uniformly, and so sporadically, the way that it came about. They're burning statues of Maduro, or not Maduro, of Chavez. They lit them those big statues on fire. They have torched the government building there where Maduro has operated from to destroy the country. And I mean, he's just made a mess of things. I mean, the inflation, the hyperinflation there is out of control. There's a lot of factors, a lot of things going on which drove this. So I don't think the CIA was necessarily drove this. I think it's driven by the disastrous communist policies of Maduro and Chavez. And this year after year after year with no improvement whatsoever, things just getting worse and worse. Hyperinflation, people starving. I mean, it's a mess. And people in Venezuela know that used to be a fairly nice country. They used to have a pretty good economy. They have a lot of natural resources. There's no reason that country should be in that shape other than communism or democratic socialism, whatever you want to call it, all one and the same. So, yeah, I mean, the CIA is obviously involved, but I don't think that they were the instigator here. There's too many other factors in play that I think led to this happening. But the CIA certainly wanted to be a player, knowing this was eventually coming. They certainly want to be a player and knowing who could possibly come to power next, whether or not they can work with him, what sort of things that they could do to make sure that if the new leader does come to power, how they can make sure he's successful. Venezuela is going to need some loans. They're going to need some help with a lot of things. Unfortunately, with Maduro and Chavez, so much of the capital wealth has fled the country and gone other places. So there's not a lot of capital investment to be had there in Venezuela. Oil, they have a lot of oil, but really the world's moving toward natural gas and away from oil. Gas is down at, $50 a barrel right now. It's not, so there's just a lot of issues, man. They have a lot of opportunity, though, for agricultural and tourism and things like that they don't even do or work on. So there's opportunities there. There's things you can do to make things much, much better than they are. And the first step is getting rid of communism or democratic socialism in Venezuela. And it looks like the first move has been taken today. Let's just hope that it's successful, that they have a peaceful transition of power, that we don't have a lot of loss of life, and that they can get someone in that country, and they're going to need a lot of help, to get someone in there who will make the right decisions and start to bring that country back. It's very, very sad, the state of affairs that we see in Venezuela. It's very sad for the people that live there. Quite honestly, in a way, I know you say, well, I don't feel sorry for them. They're a bunch of commies. They voted for commies, and they deserve what they get. I do empathize with that argument. I mean, you kind of get what you vote for, right? But there's a lot of propaganda, a lot of lies, and it comes down to a question: do you fault people for their ignorance or not? And I think in a lot of times you can certainly fault people for their ignorance. And so I'm not saying I'm totally empathetic to their cause. They did vote for Maduro, did they not? They did support Chavez, did they not? So, I mean, they got what they asked for, and it didn't work out. Let's just hope that they learn from their mistakes, and that they can turn things around in Venezuela and do some good there, because it's this doesn't help anybody. So anyway, looks like a coup is happening right now. It's taking place again. Maduro has not actually been, normally when you have a coup, the military comes and takes you away, right? But the military has not yet come and taken Maduro away. He's obviously still got a microphone. But what's very telling is that typically when you give a speech coming out saying that you're putting down the coup or whatever, you've got the military behind you. And that tells everybody a lot. If you don't have the military behind you when you're trying to turn down or turn away or stop a coup, it generally is a signal to people that you don't have the military forces on your side, and that means you're probably done. So I would expect that Maduro will be either arrested or picked up or deported or something, they'll get him out of the country one way or another. And I don't think that they probably want to throw him in jail and go through all that. That would cause even more problems. They probably just want to get him the hell out of there and see if they can start moving in another direction. Let's see. 12 people have been arrested protesting outside the office of Twitch McConnell. The reports are that these individuals were members of Code Pink, and apparently some of them may be union workers based on the hats they were wearing. So, yeah, someone organized a little protest outside Twitch McConnell's office, and they got themselves arrested. I guess that's what happens. Now, it's kind of funny. Yesterday, I ended my video by just going back and doing a brief recap, a quick brief recap of why the Right Reverend Clinton was behind the Trump Tower, meeting. Why that was a setup and why Clinton was behind it, working with Fusion GPS. I didn't read this article by John Solomon in The Hill yesterday before I did the video, but yesterday I did this video. The same day John Solomon wrote this article in The Hill. I hadn't seen the article until today. It's just kind of funny that I didn't see the article. It was there yesterday, and I did this video yesterday. I was talking about the TowerGate, the Trump Tower meeting being a total setup, and I was laying out the reasons why. And at the same time, this article, which I did not read, Solomon's making an even greater argument, which is an argument that I've been making since the first week that I started doing TowerGate videos, which is that I said that when we get to the bottom of this, we're going to find that the Right Reverend Clinton was the point man behind this entire plot. And the argument that I've been making for that for a very long time is if you go down the list of all the key players in this coup, this frame-up, beginning with the Russian narrative of the Russians hacking the DNC, all the way through where we are today, certainly up until the election of November of 2016. When you look at this list of characters, and this is how I kind of stumbled onto it, you realize that there is a direct connection from Hillary Clinton to each of the key players in the plot. And that's not true with anyone else. No one else has a direct connection to each and every one of the key players. But Hillary Clinton did. She had a direct connection to Perkins Coie. She hired them. She had a direct connection to Confusion GPS. She had a direct connection to Christopher Steele. She had a direct connection to Alexander Downer. She had a direct connection to Loretta Lynch. Direct connection to Victoria Nuland. Direct connection to Sidney Blumenthal. A direct connection to Shearer. She had a direct connection to all these key players, and we're now even learning Misfit as well, along with Halper and all the rest. The Right Reverend Clinton, her and her husband, both, had a direct connection to each and every one of the key players. And then we find out that Michael Sussman was pumping the information directly into the FBI, just the same way that Fusion GPS was, the same way that it was passed from Nuland to Kerry, or from Blumenthal to Nuland to Kerry into the FBI or the CIA. So you can see that Hillary Clinton has a direct connection to each and every one of the key players that were moving the dossier and other types of information directly into the FBI and the CIA, as well as foreign intelligence agencies. Hillary Clinton is the only one that has a direct connection. She had opportunity, she had the motive, and she is the one paying for it all. She essentially purchased a FISA warrant on Carter Page. And others, I'm sure. So, just a brief recap of what John Solomon says in his article. He sums it up by saying that between July and October 2016, Hillary Clinton connected lawyers, emissaries, and apologists, made more than a half a dozen overtures to U.S. officials, each tapping a political connection to get suspect evidence into the FBI, also into the FBI counterintelligence units, their agents, into their hands, and according to the internal documents and testimonies that Solomon says that he received and reviewed and conducted. He says that in each situation, the overtures were uninvited, which is exactly the point I make throughout this entire thing. All of these things, none of these things were things that the Trump team or Trump campaign people asked for. Carter Page wasn't asking for anything. Papadopoulos not asking for anything. Trump not asking for anything. Like in the Trump Tower meeting, they didn't ask for that meeting. It was, Goldstone calling them saying, hey, we got some information for you. Everybody was calling people in the Trump campaign saying, hey, we got some juicy information for you. And they all turned out to be connected to either U.S. or foreign intelligence agencies or FBI counterintelligence. And when you follow those links out and you find out where they got the information, it was all people who have first-person relationships with Hillary and Bill Clinton. So essentially, John Solomon making my point. And he talks about the fact that in the last 2 months, there was essentially, before the election, there was an information saturation. And we talked about that briefly yesterday, where once Hillary Clinton came out and sent out that tweet, I mean, that had to be planned. They had to all know, wait for Hillary Clinton's tweet. When she sends out that tweet, then let it rip. They had them stories already written, because Hillary Clinton sends out the tweet where she uses 2 paragraphs from the David Corn article about Trump colluding with Russia and this Alpha Bank, this Trump communicating with this Russian bank. And then within literally a couple hours, 7 stories. 7 stories. Boom, 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 boom. Not enough time to even write those stories. They were pre-written. They were pre-written and they were waiting for the cue. And the cue was Hillary's tweet. That's when they dropped all these stories. And that was right around, I guess, October 2nd of 2016. So again, to sum up John Solomon, he says between July and October 2016, Clinton connected lawyers, emissaries, and apologists made more than a half dozen overtures to U.S. officials, each tapping a political connection to get suspect evidence into the FBI counterintelligence agents' hands, according to internal documents and testimonies that he has reviewed and conducted. And he says that in each situation, the overture was uninvited.